All right. So, Will, we're doing this.
We are. I am excited. This was something that you had mentioned, it had been something that I had thought about for a while. But whenever I brought it up with people, I was like, oh, when you start a podcast, because our conversations are funny, nobody would commit. And then the first time, so you texted me about this a month ago, 2 months ago, maybe?
I think it was November or December. It was right as I was trying to finish school because I was like, you know
Yes.
what? This is going to be my new project once I'm done with school. I'm going to jump into a new challenge. And I know like Will and I are always, after we've seen a movie, after we watch the same TV stuff, we are always on the phone immediately during football games, baseball games.
The first time I actually had the podcast thought, because I had it a few years ago, I just didn't bring it up, is it was either during Comic-Con or the Disney Expo where they released a bunch of trailers and we were texting back and forth and I was telling Sarah everything that was happening, and she just wasn't at the level of excitement that I needed. So then we were texting like, "Thank you, this is what I need," and I was like super amped. I had to go to the garage and like
That's right.
hop
You get
on
on
it.
the bike
Yeah, I had to hop on the bike to burn some energy because I was so excited. And
and you were
like,
like, thank you, the one person I knew to
yes,
count on.
yes, and that was when I was like, we need to have a podcast because I was scrolling through our conversation later, and I was like, this is podcast worthy stuff. I just didn't say anything, and now here we are.
Now here
We're
we are.
starting a podcast.
And so we're probably going to cover the gambit as far as what we like to talk about is
Yes,
entertainment, TV, streaming, movies, and sports. We both have our own football teams.
yes.
Represent. We are both Cardinal. Well, I wouldn't say long suffering Cardinal fans, but the last season felt like a long suffering season.
It
But
felt like the culmination of a lot of
yeah,
things.
so that's mainly what we are here to discuss. So we thought the first episode we were going to jump right in because I have to kind of catch up on TV after getting out of school. He's being patient with me.
Yes.
But we thought we would give our top 10 good of 2023 and our top 10 bad of 2023, things we are going to look forward to in 2024 and kind
Yes.
of go from there. So we decided that we were going to start with good first because bad is always more fun.
It is. It's easy to rant about things we don't like.
Very much so, if you would see our texts.
Yes.
So we are going to go ahead and start with our top 10. We're going to go back and forth in top 10 of good for 2023. Again, it's going to be movies, entertainment in general, and sports. So why don't you go ahead and give me your first top.
All right.
I
My
wonder if I
first,
guess.
right. My first top five thing of 2023, not surprisingly, is Across the Spider-Verse. I know, shocking, right?
I'm blown away.
That movie, the soundtrack, the voice acting, the story, everything that went into it was worth the wait. It was worth the delay. I just I saw it two, maybe three times in theaters. And then as soon as it was able to be bought on Amazon Prime, I bought it. I've watched it multiple times. It was such a good movie. And then when you look at the animation and the stuff that they're doing, I can't say enough good things about it. And if you follow me on any of my socials, you have seen that
Right.
I would not shut up about it.
No, no, you would not. No, it was you. Yeah, no, you had a great lead up going into it.
I,
Did I take you to the screening?
you did.
Yeah, that was the one where like I had to tell the kids that yeah, Uncle Will gets.
Yes, and I am forever grateful for that because that was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Will
I'll
gets
have to
a
watch it
first
again.
crack at yeah, movies that I know that like he is going to like Black Panther,
Yes.
forever. That was
Ugh.
there were manly tears being shed.
I left that one off both of my lists, good and bad. I was just I'm undecided of where. I loved it, but it was also
But that was
At
the year, that was 2022, wasn't it? That was November? Was it? Oh
hold on a
man.
minute.
That's bad. It was a long year.
It,
Well, while you're looking it up, I'll go ahead and give my top good.
yes.
And I'm gonna stick with Marvel for a second, and I'm gonna say Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, was that last
All
year?
right, I like it.
I do think it was a perfect send-off. I think it's kind of it it's good and bad in the fact that it's good because it was a great send-off for that kind of ragtag team of superheroes that we've had kind of in our lives for decades now.
Yeah.
But the bad is it kind of reminds you of why they're kind of lacking at the moment. So
Yes.
yeah,
The
so
depth of that story,
it's
it was,
amazing.
yeah, it was good. It was really good.
And I
You-
still stick by my belief that Nebula is single-handedly the most fleshed out, biggest character arc in MCU as far as female characters go.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, she went from, I mean, it was, yeah, I,
It was a 180, and it wasn't just a she was bad and now she's good. She was conflicted. She didn't just become a good guy and care about these random people that she didn't know. Like, she had connections to all of these people. The way that
family to family to,
family to family, having her on the ship with Tony when they were floating out after Infinity War, like,
every
they did
movie
an
was,
outstanding job.
yeah, every movie was chipping a little bit more away. And
Yes.
she was, yeah.
Yes.
Every movie that she was in, like, showed you a little bit more. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was one of my top four to 2023. So go ahead. What's your next one?
My next one, this one's a little bit different, but my second one is the organic creation of the Barbenheimer phenomenon.
Ooh, good one. I kind of mind. I do have something that relates to that, and I said summer blockbusters, people back in the theaters.
Yeah,
I think the hype around that
it
definitely.
started off as a meme, and then it kind of really blew up on social media, and then people got into it. The actors from the two movies got into it, and then you had theaters syncing up the two movies so that you could do both of them. You could buy the combo tickets. And the fact that it wasn't a studio that really led the charge on that, it was the people that did it, I thought was really good. And then I think like Five Nights at Freddy's released the same day as a rom-com, and Peacock or Paramount or some studio like sent off a tweet trying to recreate it. And I love that everyone collectively was like, no, you don't get to do this. We create this and we lean
Right,
into it. So with
right.
Barbenheimer, it was very organic in the sense that it wasn't a corporation that started that. It was a meme where someone like saw the release dates, was like, "Oh, that's funny," and then it turned into a whole thing.
I, I didn't even think about it like that, but I completely agree. I think it was almost kind of needed after kind of long bouts of COVID and nobody going anywhere.
Yes,
Just
one hundred
kind of like
percent.
the lack of just fun in general and something to
Yeah.
rally around and get excited about.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I
I
definitely
like
agree.
it.
All right. My next one, I'm going to deviate off of entertainment for a bit. And I'm going to say the Orioles baseball season. Now, I know they didn't make it very far in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I get it. But
they made the
you
playoffs.
basically go from 100 or 150 losses.
Right. That was a quick turnaround. That was
Yes.
impressive.
Wink, wink at Cardinals baseball. It can be done. Wink, wink. I mean, it can be done when you're. Yeah, but
Wait, no,
I'm sure
you
we'll get to that.
spend money? What?
I'm sure we'll get to. Well, I mean, he's the one guy is notoriously cheap. Angelo is notoriously, but we will get
Yeah.
to our. I'm sure the other will make the poor list.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, Orioles. It was great. It was. I used to get so much grief from people everywhere when I'd be stunting my Orioles gear and people would,
Yeah.
oh, and finally I was like, listen, it might only happen once every 30 years.
Hey,
But here I am.
you have to celebrate it when it happens because it can be gone in an instant.
Right. I mean, like, I'm sure Detroit Lion fans can understand why I would be,
Yes.
so.
Yes.
So yeah, for just a read, there's not too many. I think I have more bad for sports than I had good, but that was my one like shining little moment for 2023 for me,
Yeah.
especially with baseball. And I will be talking about my football team later.
Oh yeah, me too. Me too. Kick off 2023 in the
So
worst way possible.
right. So I did have one little bright spot of yay, Orioles baseball.
Yeah, right.
Top,
You
my
gotta
top
cling to
list for
those.
2023. All right,
Uh,
what's your next one?
my next one is still on the entertainment side, but it's on the gaming side, and it was two video games that came out: the Spider-Man video game for PS5, and then the Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is like a continuation of Order 66, which I just love that years later we're still getting more content about that. Um, and yeah, I enjoy gaming. I do a decent amount. But those two games were like right. The stories were great. I think that's my big thing. I enjoy playing a good story game,
Hmm.
and the Star Wars game was great. And then for the Spider-Man game, you got to play as Peter Parker and Miles Morales, which just outstanding.
I will say that's heaven for you. So I mean,
Right, exactly, exactly. I took off work to play the new Spider-Man game. That was how much I was ready for it.
nice. Well, good. All right.
Oh, and also Black Panther was 2022.
Oh,
You were
was it?
correct.
I did think,
Yes.
yeah, I was gonna say, I thought it was.
Yeah, like everything's blurring together now. But
It really is. This is why it's good that we're actually doing this because now, like, we will have like homework we actually give away
yes,
and have to like
yes,
we actually have to keep notes now.
yes,
All right. Well, kind of sticking with your gaming, but it's not gaming. But Last of Us was a
yes.
game, and it was out last year. I honestly almost kind of forgot it was out last year because let's face it, without Game of Thrones or House of Dragon, life feels a little empty, you know.
100%.
So
100%.
this actually kind of helped bridge this lonely
Yes.
desert land we have of waiting for the next House of Dragon. So I really did enjoy Last of Us. Now I
And they did it really well. It is not often, it's not often that a video game translates well into a movie or show. I mean, there's a long list of things that have tried and failed. The Last of Us, they changed a little bit from the game, but everything that they changed made sense.
right.
And so, yes,
And
that was just off my list. That was on my honorable mentions, was The Last
oh,
of
okay,
Us.
good. But I think they're actually kind of turning that corner with videos because I mean, if anybody has seen the recent Sonic the Hedgehog movies or Super Mario Brothers,
Yeah,
they've been doing
that's true.
a
Recently,
better
yes,
job
they've
of
turned the corner.
yes, of doing that. I am like that's kind of like my top like when we were like there was a lot of times that as movie critics we're asked to put our top 10 list for movies together and everybody has like the same kind of movies there's nothing against it but it just shows you how, like what not an or art critic and movie critic that I am because I'm like well, what about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Right.
movie? I was like I really enjoyed that or what about Super
Yeah,
Mario Brothers that looked amazing on the screen
it
but
really
yeah
did.
no like yeah no I'm very simple.
Yeah, no, it's I enjoy being critical of movies because I don't want to accept everything as like, oh, it's fine.
Right.
But I'm also very easy to entertain.
Which
And
I'm glad I
that's the
am.
point.
Right. I can't do it. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
like yeah,
yeah,
just make it look good on screen, make it not so cheesy that I'm like, ooh, that's bad writing.
right.
But yeah, no, I thought Last of Us actually did a great job. I thought it kind of once again it made if there's anything anybody knows about if you were I got Will finally caught up with Game of Thrones and House of Dragon because he was missing the best part. The best part about watching those shows is social media when it's on. It collectively the world is watching
It
together.
adds to the experience.
Does we're fine. It's like we're all sitting down on this one huge world couch and like everybody's enjoying it and has their takes on it
Yeah,
immediately. Like nobody's waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and binge watching the entire season,
Right.
screwing everything up, and
That's how we are with sports.
by noon people are already, they went from hating it to, or from loving it to hating it to ripping it apart and telling you why everybody sucks. So
Everybody
I
has their
enjoy
think pieces. Yes.
that. Fine, like what I think kind of Last of Us kind of was doing the same thing. It's never, I don't really ever think it's going to have the same impact as Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, but I think
I
it,
wasn't watching Game of Thrones as it was airing, but I was on social media. So I was seeing the conversations, and I like made a choice to block most of it from my memory so I could still be shocked when I saw things. But the one thing I do remember, even though I wasn't watching the show, from the moment I started the show, I knew that Arya killed the Night King because I remember
spoiler
that night
alert.
on Twitter. Twitter was in shambles. Like
Oh yeah,
it was wild, and I didn't even watch the show, and I was excited.
right.
So,
Yeah. So
having the world collectively sitting together and watching it, reacting, emoting all at the same time together,
so
it
good.
helps. And
So
yeah,
good.
Last of Us did that.
We will definitely be talking about House of Dragon, Game
Oh
of
yeah,
Thrones much
oh
more
yeah,
in later episodes because we
I'm
love
ready. It
we
is
love
on
that
my
stuff.
most anticipated for 2024.
All right, so Last of Us was mine. I don't even know what number we're on.
That was three for us, so we're on to four now.
Okay.
So my four was Hayden Christensen's return to Star Wars. Like
Yes.
it wasn't just the Ahsoka series, which I thought was pretty good, and parts of it were great. But Hayden coming back, putting on the clone trooper armor,
It was redemption
interacting with
time.
young.
It was
Yes,
redemption. It was yes, it was redemption for Revenge of the Sith.
yes,
It 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 quieted some of the naysayers for at least a little bit. I mean, we're not
yes.
going to do it completely,
For a
but
little bit,
yeah,
yes.
I completely agree. I think it was a great chance for him to come back and kind of be like, this is what it actually could have been.
Yeah, and him interacting with young Ahsoka, I thought was incredible. I forget the girl's name, but she was young Gamora. She was in
Yeah.
the Barbie movie, and now she's been in Star Wars. She played a young Ahsoka perfectly. The cinematography of Anakin in the Clone Wars, and then the flashes to Darth Vader, and then just like a sobering moment because I always go back and laugh at how they say, oh, we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers, and then of course 10 minutes later
They're in
they
war.
turn them all into generals, and you always laugh at that. And they have Padawans. Their Padawans are little generals, but it wasn't until in the live action had the young Ahsoka talking to Anakin about like we're kids in the middle of a war. I was like, oh, and it just really is like a sobering moment, and just the way that they handled his character, so good. I watched that as soon as the episode ended. I started it over and watched it. And usually I give myself some time, but like as soon as the credits rolled,
Beautiful. It
I
was
went back and
beautiful.
watched it.
It was a beautiful episode. And for all of that Siege of Mandalore, all of just,
Yes,
yeah, agreed. It was on my list. If you hadn't said it and we ran out of time, it was going to be an honorable mention. So I
yes,
had Ahsoka, Anakin reunited because I thought the two, it was perfect. It was, like I said, it was screen redemption for him, I think.
yes.
So my next one, ooh, oh, I've got two left, and I really, okay. I'm actually gonna go with Loki because I think
That
he
yes.
was the probably one of the few bright spots for MCU last year.
Yep.
And I would have to say that Loki is my male character that I believe had the hugest, biggest character
Yep.
arc in the MCU, along with, I think, everybody likes to say Tony Stark, but Tony Stark started off a hero and ended a hero.
Yep.
Loki was
He was a villain, and I don't disagree. I There is the small part of me that says, well, this variant is different, but to me it still counts because it was still the same Loki that attacked New York and wanted to rule and all of this, and then all of this stuff was the exact same. Like I get that there is a different version
Well, even the
that
original variant, who was, spoiler alert, killed by Thanos, still had come around. I mean,
yes,
him, even that variant went from, destroying New York to reconciling with his brother
yeah,
and trying and fighting alongside of him. And
yep.
so, I mean, what we might get from that is Loki is, no matter what timeline it is, he's got a character, he has a character arc. It comes
He
with
does.
a lot
And
of
it was
pain and a
beautifully
lot of
done.
terribleness, but ultimately Loki ends up saving somebody.
He saves somebody, he makes the ultimate sacrifice, he gets his throne, which is still the wildest part, is that they gave him a full character arc, and in the end, he still got what he wanted, but he didn't want it anymore. But it went from him wanting to grab it to him realizing
I have to do
he
this.
had to do it.
Yeah,
So good.
yeah.
The
So I thought
music, it just
that was one of
was
mine.
so good.
It was so good. It was so good, and it gave me the chills to watch that walk that he did.
Yes, yes. I have gone back and watched
Yeah.
that
It's
multiple times.
again, it was really gorgeous to watch on screen.
Yes,
So are
yes.
we at four? Or was that four? Or was that five?
That was four for you. So this will be my fifth one upcoming.
Okay.
My fifth one is football related, but it was the return of the XFL slash Battlehawks, and I got season tickets, like the only season tickets I could afford, and for professional sports, professional. Um, Being a St. Louis native, I still have a sore spot from when the Rams left, and they left the dome, and they left the dome empty. So going into the dome, driving down Broadway and seeing packed parking lots and tailgating and seeing football, albeit it's not the NFL. I acknowledge that, but I love it for what it is. And it is somewhat professional football in St. Louis, inside the dome. Like that is something that
Agreed.
was very special to me, and I enjoyed going to the games each week.
I agree. It's nice to see. It's nice, and it's kind of a thumb in the eye, or it's
Yes,
to Cronky. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. I agree. So my last one is American Fiction. Now, I know it's been, I think it comes out this week, maybe in theaters. I got
Hmm.
to see it a while ago. To me, it is probably one of the most perfect non-action movies that I saw last year. I know it's a 2024 movie for St. Louis, but I think in
It
other,
counts.
yeah.
It counts.
But as far as every actor is amazing in it. It's so funny. It's so poignant. There's not a weak link in that movie. There's never a time where you're like, "Ooh, this is dragging on." There's never a moment where you're like, "That was a cheesy line."
Right.
Sometimes it is heartbreaking. Sometimes it's hilarious. Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable.
It's a journey.
But it is. I couldn't recommend that movie. Like, I rarely does a talkie movie like, really, the talkies. Rarely do the talkies get me.
uh,
I am yeah, I mean, like, yeah, for one to actually do that for me, I can't wait to watch it again. I can't.
yeah,
I think Jeffrey Wright is just,
he is
I just,
phenomenal.
I don't, you're just like, can we just keep him around forever?
Right. No,
We
I
put him in a box.
definitely
Don't let him age.
yeah. No, he is phenomenal. Everything that I've seen him in, he just he delivers dialogue well, which I think might be weird to say, but like he is one of those people that understands how lines need to be delivered in order for them to hit the way they are supposed to.
Agreed.
Like
He's
it just like even as Felix in James Bond, obviously the focus is on James
right.
Bond and the Bond girls and the action and all the shooting. But whenever he would interact with Felix, it was just like, oh, like everybody shut up and listen to this
Yeah.
guy.
Just listen to him talk.
Right.
Oh, all right. So we got through our good, as
Yes.
good as it was.
Ugh,
there is always the other side of the coin, which is bad.
you have to. You gotta take the good with the
And
bad.
so, yeah, I know I let you go first.
Yes.
Good. I'm gonna like go ahead and
Go
just
ahead.
I
Go
just
ahead.
have to go with
Let's
bad.
dive into this.
Ooh, I have so many.
Are they all
My
Cardinals
honorable
related?
mentions might be bad. Um, ooh, I'm gonna have to go with Jonathan Majors. It broke
Yeah,
it
that was
broke
on
my
my
heart.
list. Yeah.
It broke my heart. It breaks my heart. I, ugh, I, he, I felt like he was going to be the savior of the the decline of the MCU as far as the past couple of years. I
Yeah.
thought, wait, this man is phenomenal. This is it. We have got it. We've got the man that is going to lead us
We had
on a
him.
plan.
And that all signs pointed to it. When he talked, you were terrified with him just talking. He commanded the attention which a villain does. It was very reminiscent of Thanos, except for he was not purple. Well,
Right. Just
in some
he's
species.
just a quote unquote regular guy who like had
Yes.
a very calm nature about him. And then when he would snap, so
Yeah.
good. But I just this is a lesson to everybody, male, female. Do not let anybody take your check.
Yeah.
do
100%.
do not let anybody make you so mad that it ruins your future.
That was a generational bag fumble.
This
Like
is
they
it,
had come out and they admitted, like, yeah, we are centering the next phase around this guy. Like, you were the guy.
you were the guy. You were
That's
him.
you are
All that
him.
hope.
Uh in
All right,
fact, he
all
was
right, yeah.
not
So
the one
let's.
that remained.
These are all gonna hurt. So
Yes.
go ahead.
My first one, as some people may have guessed, which actually brings up my honorable mention. My honorable mention for top five best things was the Eagles Kelly Green for last year. But my top five, number one, first moment was the outcome of the Super Bowl. I wake up in night sweats. Getting to the Super Bowl, great accomplishment. Obviously, like your team
Who
has been going
cares?
through it
Let the
for.
people. Let them just. Let me tell you something. The fury, the fury that I felt at the Super Bowl was brought up again at the game for Kansas City where he lost his ish on the
Yes.
sidelines because I thought, how dare! And I was so happy to see that Super Bowl was trending after
Yes.
his meltdown because I thought, how does it feel
Yes.
when a game is taken away from you and he didn't have Tony was offsides. There was
You were
no
that upset
there
about
was
a call that
no
was called
PI.
correctly. It
There
was
was no
called
pass
correctly.
there was no pass interference in the Super Bowl.
No. And
I don't
just
do not at us. We do not want to hear you
I
stand
don't want to hear it.
for
And
the Chiefs. We don't want to we know what your response is going to be. It's either going to be cope or cry more. And that's so played out. That means that just tells me you don't have an argument. And as you know, I can't,
yeah.
it's going to be on YouTube. But
And the people that will say, well, the guy was it Bradbury admitted that he held him. I was like, he was being a professional. And he was being the opposite of what Patrick was being. Like, again, I hated when Tom Brady would just storm off the field after a loss, but I would rather you just storm off the field rather than go to midfield to complain to the other quarterback about it. Like, what is Josh Allen supposed to do in that situation?
say my
Oh yeah,
Griffin
man, I
Potter.
can't believe they called him off sides. Ah, that sucks for you guys.
Because he knows it's
Like,
Griffin's hotter. I mean,
ah,
he's already won. He's got Haley Steinfeld. He doesn't need to say anything.
true. It's true.
But yes, I 100% agree. Like and it's only been highlighted by the terrible refereeing
Yes.
in football, which
If
actually
we
could
had
make the list, but
forced
I didn't.
them, yeah. If we had forced them to kick a field goal and then we got the ball back, in my heart, I believe we would have won. But even if we had gotten the ball back and fumbled it or thrown an interception on like the very first play, would have broken my heart. I'd still be crying about it. But I can accept the fact that like we lost that game. But the fact that they took an all-time classic Super Bowl, and by doing that, allowed the Chiefs to kneel it out, like that was ridiculous.
Especially when it was pretty much the same ending that's how they got to the Super Bowl with the AFC
Yes.
the Bengals. You were just like, this is amazing. Like, really,
Yeah.
we're just manufacturing ends of games now. I am kind of sickened by this. This is kind of
Yep.
gross.
Yep.
So 100% agree. 100% agree. Now I'm going to try to decide whether or not to stick with football because my team not so great. But I think I'll come back to that
Hey,
later.
no losing seasons. I'm like, forever. That's after 10 years, I feel like that's not good enough anymore.
No, it's like winning your division and being the Cardinals. Like, okay,
Bro.
I
Yeah.
am. I'm the skinniest kid at fat camp. Like, great. I mean,
Right.
like, okay, but I can't. Or you know what? I might as well just go ahead.
I was gonna say let's get into it.
We're just gonna go ahead and go with Steelers offense. Thankfully, they fired Matt Canada. Do I think he was entirely the problem? No, but I think it's a good start. I think you have to be super bad for them to be breaking good tradition that was held for 82 years of not firing a coach
Yeah.
during the season. So you were pretty bad, and that the heat must have been coming on to Tomlin
Oh yeah.
it to happen because and I know that sometimes like you always have those post game bumps after a coach is fired. They just hit the Blues had it with Berube.
Yeah.
For like a game or two, and then it went back to whatever.
Goes back to the way it was.
Right, but to see the Steelers put up over 400 yards of offense,
The very next game,
the very
wild.
next game was again, they always joke about the NFL script and how it's written season after season.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's well played. I guess thanks for giving us
Right.
that one.
It was for the plot. It was for the plot.
Right. So I mean, I know they're doing a tad bit better with Mason. I've heard the rumors that that the Russell Wilson. I just just please do not don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. I don't need it. Like I'm running the team, right? I don't need
right.
it. But let's put out one fire.
Right. Right.
Before we take on another team's fire and dumpster
yeah. It's almost like with this current team, you have a lot of other issues to fix. I was wanting to give Kenny Pickett a chance. I don't think he's the guy. Mason Rudolph has looked decent, but I feel like if he was the guy, he would have been a starter. I feel like your team is young enough that you could go to the draft rather than get a aging quarterback. I mean, Joe Flacco, he might be out there since he's turning back the clock, but
that's to be beat up by him twice,
right.
What are we doing here?
You should go get Gardner Minshew because once Anthony Richardson comes back to the Colts, you can get the mullet and the jorts.
Like Joe Burrow gets hurt next year and the Bengals pull him off the practice squad. I mean, we might be facing them all three teams. Please let this end.
Yeah, that's rough.
All right, so that was mine. Steelers offense is
yes,
one of my top bad fives.
My number 2, it's back to Star Wars. I enjoyed parts of Mandalorian season 3, but the lack of depth with the material that they had set up. So I guess the lack of depth in the lack of depth in Mandalorian season 3. It just you had obviously the first season was phenomenal. I thought the second season was pretty good, but there were too many what I felt were filler episodes in a show that only had 8 episodes, maybe. I just felt like, you have him going to the planet and you think they're going to bring back some honor to Mandalore. They've got I'm blanking on the name right now. I had it on my post.
I get what you're saying because it's like, he had better episodes in the Book of Boba Fett than what he actually had in
right
in his own
and
series.
I know a lot of people were hating on Lizzo and Jack Black in an episode, and I do think that they were so famous that it would kind of pulled you out of the world a little bit.
Right.
But honestly, that wasn't even my big issue. It's just the episodes as a whole. As soon as they started to get into the depth of the lore that is there, the lore is there, it turned back into a Grogu throwaway episode. And like you said, you know how good it could have been because the Mandalorian episodes were the best part of the Book of Boba Fett. So it's like
Exactly.
I
Right.
saw what you could do.
Right. You've got the content there. Go ahead.
Yeah.
So my next one is going to be Secret Invasion.
I had that one on my list and I thought I'm going to take it off and assume that it was on yours.
Oh yeah, that was one of those where I was like, either one of us could have this one
Yes.
because we are comic book aficionados.
Yes.
We find it supremely offensive that when you have a director come out and say, I've never read a comic in my life or have no idea what the story is about, and it's one of the best stories
One of
as
the
far as
best
Marvel goes.
stories. Yeah,
It's
it was huge.
amazing. I
You
know
have
that
the
they had already
platform.
right. They had already covered Civil War. I get it
Yep.
that they had, but I mean, like if you knew the comics and you knew just the fracture that happens because all of that has already happened, and it's nobody can trust each other, and there's just so much insaneness going on with it. It's yeah, and they had the material. They had the material.
They have the
And
material right there.
no one read it. And they
Yeah.
decided me and you had talked about it earlier. It was like we were so worried when it came out that it was going to be a series. We were like, how do you take Secret Invasion and make it into a series? Like
Yeah.
this is a well thought out multi-year plan of
Yeah.
movies that where you drop stuff here and there, and we feared it was going to be bad because we knew how good it was, and that
Yeah.
you were devoting such little time to it, and like each time a series comes out by Marvel now, it's like shorter and shorter. It's like Echo only 5.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well I'm sure that'll give us plenty of time to flesh her out.
Right, exactly. It doesn't make sense, especially for something as important and as good as Secret Invasion. There was so much wrong with it. Like honestly, I'm like sitting here
Oh
just
yeah,
getting flashbacks, thinking
because
about what
just
it could have been and what it was.
and the huge plot hole now that you have in the Marvel
Yes,
universe with the single-handedly most powerful being,
the most powerful being
and she's just out there.
just hanging out. Maybe she's gonna go to the floating hand in the sky that no one's referenced yet from Eternals.
Right, she's just
Like I was
gonna
yeah,
live on the on that like the ice island.
just yeah, I just that one hurt me because of how good how good it was.
How good it could have been.
How good it could have been. Yeah. It just
Yep.
that's rough. That's rough.
What's your next one?
My next one, um, this one, and I tried to sum this one up because I feel like it's a very broad topic. We
Wait
can
a
have
minute,
an all.
and just in case we're cut off, we will.
Oh,
In,
yes.
in case we're cut off, we will start over.
Yes.
Again, this is why we're doing
This is why we're doing
because you
this.
see our text. This is exactly what we do.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So mine, and I narrowed it down because I could have a whole episode on the Cardinals, but mine is the finale that was Adam Wainwright. I have a lot of different directions I could go with the Cardinals, but with this one, it was this guy who was a legend. He's getting a statue,
Send
but
all your hate mail to Will.
yes, yes, I will give you my socials. It's
Okay.
not anything against him, but nostalgia is an important part of sports. But when you allow nostalgia to become your singular focus and more important than winning, you have a guy that should have been pulled earlier in the season or years ago, trotting out there with an 8 ERA and they just wheel him out there hoping that he can get a win, and you're looking your fan base in the face and saying, "We actually don't care about winning. We just want to get these last 2 wins, these last 3 wins." This guy's ERA is bigger than a touchdown. Like everything about him being out there basically was telling everyone it was more than just him, it was showing you what the organization was prioritizing. And I think that is what annoyed me about it. And yes, I will accept all of the hate from the best fans in baseball about it.
Well, good, because you know what? I'll go ahead and piggyback on yours, because my next one was going to be the Cardinals front office
Yes.
philosophy.
Yes.
I do believe that we do have a horrible problem of constantly wanting to be nostalgic.
Yes.
Let's bring back this person. Oh my gosh, we haven't seen this person in a long time. As great as that is, and I'm so glad that we have a history of people wanting to come back and finish out their careers here. I I'm good. Like
Yeah.
I know right now, I know that they really tried to push season tickets with all that Yadier coming back as a coach talk, because
Yeah.
I told you earlier, I knew it was very calculated, because around the same time they were talking about that, all the emails were coming towards me about, hey, have you gotten your season tickets for do, 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 do?" So it's a business, and
Yep.
I'm not like as romantic as people want to be about baseball. You you, you got to understand it's a business, and
Yep.
they are there to try to pull those emotional strings and get you to spend the money.
Yep.
And yeah, you, you could go over the philosophy of you can't say that fans are spoiled when all your promotional stuff is about how we're 11-time World Series champions. You can't have a World Series trophy in the middle of our ballpark village and then be like, well, fans they need to lower their expectations some more.
Right.
Like, well, you've built an entire
You
culture on
yes.
winning. So
100%.
yeah, we could there's several philosophy things that again we will probably get to when we see this season play out, because
Yes.
neither one of us have great hopes considering our veteran pitching roster at the moment. And
Who's
as
average
of
age
right now,
37?
today is January 3rd.
January
There have
3rd.
really not been any more moves. Now,
Nope.
granted, there haven't been a lot in baseball I mean, like,
There were 2 big ones, but outside of that,
right. It's been kind of a slow off season as far
yeah.
as like just movement in general. I mean, it's just not our team. It's just kind of everybody. But right now, knowing what the problems were, the issues were, and saying, hey, look at these two 35-year-olds. Hey, you know what we should do? We should cross our fingers and hope that they go back to what they were pitching a couple of years ago. That's a really, to me, like people like to talk about the Cardinals being kind of a low risk team. To me, it seems like a bigger risk. In my opinion, it seems like a
Yep.
bigger risk to put money behind aging
Yep.
players, especially pitchers, um, when they have had declines, instead of young players who you could possibly have had for a good amount of years. Again, you're right. You're risking injury. You don't ever know how that's going to play out. But it seems to me, I'm not going to put money on me to run a marathon. I'm going to put
Right.
money on somebody younger to run a marathon.
It
Let's be
just makes sense. I mean, yeah, you pay yeah, you've seen the goods
hmm
from these guys, but they're not that anymore. And yes, there is a chance they could turn back the clock, maybe for a little bit, but 162 games is a long season, and the chances of them actually being consistently effective are
Turning back
pretty
the clock
slim.
is
Yeah.
difficult, and it's even more difficult, I think, for a pitcher.
I would rather risk the money on a younger guy and look back and be like, "Oh, he ended up not being great." But I would roll the dice on that player 8
100%.
out of 10 times before I would go to the aging pitcher who has more recently looked old. I like 8 out of 10
and your
times,
body
maybe
falls
not.
apart. Your body just falls apart.
It's
Here.
just, yeah,
And
that's
I'm
how
saying
it
this
is.
because I I am old enough to be Will's mother. I say this I say this knowing and trying
Ugh,
to warn him about the age that is coming in a few decades.
ugh.
Well,
So at
wait,
the
I
gym
mean,
this
like seriously,
morning,
wait
I
a minute.
was
You just turned 30?
turned 30 in July.
Okay, I will be out of high school 30 years this year. So
Uh,
just so you can do the math yourself. I really don't care. I mean, it is what it
I've
is.
reached the point where like I have to stretch after a workout, which honestly you're supposed to always. But I could get away with it before, but now if I don't stretch after a workout, I'm
Right.
screwed.
But yes, hey, let's go ahead and sign the pitchers. Let's hit
Yeah.
22 million on some pitchers who are,
And then our young guys that we decide we don't want are winning World Series or winning the home run derby. It's fine. It's whatever.
it's we'll be okay. We'll be okay.
It's fine.
But you will hear about more about this as the season
Oh, we will get into it.
rest assured. Although we are both willing to eat crow if it turns out okay. We'd be like,
Yes, I would love to be wrong. Would love it.
it's no skin off my back to be like, hey, you
Yes.
know what? They knew better than I did. Congratulations.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, as somebody who was right 6 innings into last season and was
I was, yeah.
attacked, and I think it's like 6 innings. It might have been 6 days, 6 weeks. It was a short amount of time where I was like, y'all, something doesn't feel right. And people are like, dude, way too early. I never did. I did. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for anybody. If you ever attacked me, I do have all the screenshots. Anybody who attacked me, you are more than willing to show up in my DM, and we will keep it private, and you can tell me you were wrong
Yeah.
and that I was right.
I mean,
Love to hear it.
it's just, I gave up on this season pretty early on. And by gave up, like, obviously I knew we still had a chance. But looking at the roster, I was like, this isn't going to happen. And didn't Wainwright start the season on the disabled list or the
Yeah,
IR?
because
Whatever.
of the World Baseball Classic.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just go ahead. Go ahead with your next one.
My next one, that's number 4 for me, is the strike/delays.
Me too. We're just gonna
Yes,
have to joint those because
yes,
I
that is
go ahead and
something
tell me
that
why you was bad.
for me it was just I feel like it was disrespectful to the actors that were struggling. Obviously, it's a business, so they wanted to the corporations, the studios wanted to keep all the money. I think AI is a tool, but it also is dangerous for actors and all of that. But it also the writer strike and the actor strike ended up pushing back a lot of shows. I know House of the Dragon and Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power were unaffected due to something, the way their unions work, but not allowing actors to do press for certain movies, I think hurt movies, hurt the outcome of those theatrical runs. I delayed some of my podcasts, which sucks. I know that's selfish, but some of my podcasters stopped doing their podcast about the shows they were on. It pushed back, beyond the Spider Verse. It's I don't have it on my anticipated for 2024 because I'll be honest, I don't think it's coming out next year.
Yeah.
Um, I think just overall it showed a uglier side to the Hollywood execs, which honestly I never thought they were good people in the first place. But it just showed like how unwilling to compromise they were on what I feel like is basic things for not the not Matt Damons of the acting industry.
Yeah. It's record profits. I mean, I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, but record profits are unpaid wages. I mean that
Yes.
it's just that's just the way it is. I know people will argue that millionaires don't owe us anything, and true.
How dare you? How dare you?
However, like you're like if they are not writing you a check, you do not need to carry water for them. That you that
Yeah.
they there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with paying people. Like the price of just living has gone up and wages need to reflect that. But I agree with you. It's the AI, it's the assuming that you can use somebody's name. I mean, like we just got over this for the NCAA, like name, image,
Yeah,
likeness, and now you want to use their, you wanted to be able to use their, their being and their voice into perpetuity without ever paying these people. You
yeah,
wanted to make a check off of them into perpetuity, but God forbid they should ask for compensation for that.
exactly. And they finally were willing to compromise, and they said like, we'll pay you 8 hours of work, a day's worth of work, to come in and let us scan your face and do all this, so then we don't have to pay you down the road. And they were trying to pitch it as, well, it'd be 3 hours of work, but we'd pay you for a full day. Like, okay, cool, but like, what about the next day and the next day and the next day when I
20
would
years from now, right?
normally be working? But that 8 hours that you paid me for 3 hours of work to scan my
Right.
face and my body movements, like, yeah, that was
While you
that was
continue to make contracts with streaming services off of my work. Right. Yeah, that's I agree
yeah,
with you. So like it's kind of funny that it got all the way down to 4 before we had one that just overlapped.
right.
Because
Yes.
we had a lot of overlapping, but at least I mean like normally I had come up with more, but that was like I was actually it was actually a little tougher for me to come up with some bad, like overall bad.
Yeah. I think it was very I had a lot of broad things, but having to narrow mine down, and then my last one, honestly, is kinda
My
like,
last one is MCU's decline. It's kind of heartbreaking for me,
yeah,
loving the comics like I do, watching them flounder like DC is kind of, is upsetting. It's
yeah.
really upsetting. It was such a bright spot to look forward to those movies. I haven't even seen the Marvels. I haven't even seen it.
I saw it. It wasn't something that was high on my radar, which for a long time,
We were
if
like, "Whoop!"
I didn't see it by the end of opening weekend, something was wrong.
Right?
And then for the Marvels, and then I think Guardians of the Galaxy.
It took you a while to see
I
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, but the Marvels I did see, it was good. It was fine. I didn't hate it. I
What
didn't
is
love it.
but has it furthered anything as far as storyline goes?
In a very small sense, were one of their side projects, maybe, but for the overall grand scheme of things, no. And that's something that I was on TikTok today posting videos about. I do believe that the decline of Marvel, as far as the fans are concerned, the hype factor, I think some of it has something to do with people hating and nitpicking every little thing. But when I say that, I don't mean that the MCU is above criticism or that they've done everything
Oh,
right,
yeah, no.
because they definitely haven't. They have done some weird things that don't make sense to not even the grand story or the comics. You're doing stuff that doesn't make sense to the last movie that you made. Like, these two things don't connect. And you find out later that because of uh the rushed schedules and all the deadlines, and just people wanting to keep their secrets and not have things leaked, a lot of the different directors and producers who were both making MCU films for the current phase didn't communicate with each other. Like, I feel like that's something you have to do. You don't have to lay all your cards on the table. Like, I get that, but you're telling me that you would film this entire movie and at no point walked over and said, "Hey, by the way, this is kind of what here's an outline of what we're doing. Here's some details. Will any of this conflict? Do we need to have deeper conversations about this and this? Hey, I'm going to have a hand stick up through the globe and a big face peer into the sky that you can see from space. You might want to write that into your stories or something like that." Oh,
I'm
no,
gonna
we're just
have
not going to
the
reference it.
I'm gonna have the world's most powerful character that just has all the powers.
Yeah,
Every
we have Captain Marvel, who's one of the most powerful characters. Now imagine that along with all of the Avengers and as a shapeshifter.
and that
Oh, that's crazy.
and that Nick Fury somehow got the blood of everybody. That
Yeah.
all the DNA at one point. Like, and I mean, like, okay, like shouldn't like and you feel like shouldn't part of the universe know about Moon Knight? Like, shouldn't I mean, like, there's She. I mean, it. I just there.
She-Hulk wasn't mentioned. In She-Hulk, they mention mutants. They mention mutants in Miss Marvel, like, but then they're not bringing them up in any of the other projects. You've got Shang-Chi, which I know his kind of a lot of his movie kind of took place in whatever that realm was. But you've got the Ten Rings, and you've got the Mandarin Society, and you've
And
got
the only
um,
connecting factor that you've got right now going on is Wong, and
exactly
apparently he's not telling anybody anything.
right, and then he brings Shang-Chi out into their little thing, and he mentions that it's beaconing, calling for someone, and then that never gets referenced again. Like, do we assume that it was from Kang? Sure, but they never actually confirmed it. They haven't mentioned it since, and none of these heroes or villains from any of these other movies or shows have even been referenced. And I can make the argument that the same thing was said for the first Infinity Saga. There were villains in all of those movies, and outside of Shield, a lot of it wasn't mentioned. But there's just something that's different now.
And unless you're going to give us a sweeping, huge movie like event, or even just the upcoming Avenger, like when they had their first end of their phase with the first Avengers movie,
Yeah.
it wasn't very long before things were like connected. Like all the few movies that we had gotten, then there was a quick connection between everything. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, there's so much out there, and nothing has been connected yet. Like
Exactly.
you okay, you've given us Moon Knight and She-Hulk and Loki, and I mean you did Miss I mean, like, you've got, and then Agatha. I mean, like, I know Agatha's coming, but I mean, like, you've got all of these characters. You've got Black Knight out there, you've got Blade whispering in the wind, you've got, like, the Eternals are still walking around, you've got it, and
You've
like,
got two Hawkeyes because first Hawkeye technically hasn't really retired yet.
no,
You've got Hawkeye
or
taking place at Christmas time, which is right around when the new Spider-Man movie ended, when he became like full on broke Peter Parker, which I guess he gets the cop out of no one remembers him, but like
John
there,
Walker.
yeah,
He's
there's just so much
that because you've decided to
stuff.
go into the shows and streaming, which is great, but now you've got to figure out a way to tie it together. Or right now,
Yes,
it's so chaotic that you're losing people.
yeah,
And so it's, to me, that was one of my, like, I think it's just kind of a continuous fall of that until if something dramatic. And again, it goes back to my first one with Jonathan Majors, is you had this unifying character that you thought could do this, and now.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and then that brings up also we don't know what's going on, and we know that Kang was supposed to be the focal point. But at the same time, outside of that universe here in the real world, we know that you have also confirmed that the Fantastic Four is coming. So it's like, okay, how important are they going to be now when you've given us, 5, 6, 7 movies and TV shows that are all sporadic and don't connect, but they're going to maybe connect with Kang. But then you've got Fantastic Four, who is one of the most popular groups um,
Dealing with Kang.
dealing with Kang, and they haven't even been introduced yet.
And sniff that.
And it's just like okay, so there's still other stuff going to come out before the Fantastic Four even gets going, because I think they like just announced they're just finalizing like who's going to play who's. Was like you're still a long way away from even
But
introducing them.
he's got it. He. The thing is, what do they always say? That's like you don't. What is it? Don't leave the dance. What's the? You don't leave the dance that you came, or like just what's the formula? Don't leave the formula that you started with, or
Yeah,
like it's. I can't even think of what the phrase is. My brain is. Um. Yeah, but he left the formula that he started with. Like that's what
yeah.
made it great. Was you had people like, oh my god, I can't wait for the next movie because I gotta see how this connect. Like, ooh, there's
Hmm.
gonna be an Easter egg, and it's fun to have like all of these all probably all had Easter eggs referring to a comic, a movie, another character somewhere, but it doesn't make it a relevant Easter egg. Like I can
And
just
yeah,
give you
and
Easter
that
eggs.
was some of the magic that was lost, because like I said, when a movie came out, I needed to watch it. If the movie came out on Friday, well, Thursday technically, I needed to see it by Sunday. They gave me Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday to see it, because I needed to know all the Easter eggs, and I wanted to see the movie, but I also wanted to see how it connected to a larger universe. Where now I don't necessarily feel the rush to see it. I don't want it to be spoiled for me, but in my mind, I've given up on it connecting to a bigger universe for the time being. So it's like, oh, it's an origin story. Cool.
Right. It's now almost
I'll
like you almost now feel like, okay, well, I'll wait until the big connecting piece happens and then maybe I'll binge the rest of them. Like
yeah.
I'll start from, and it's like that's not how it used to be. And I know it's like, okay, well, things evolve and great, but I just don't think this was an evolution for the better.
And I think that, again, I think people complain and nitpick everything, but people's criticisms of that are valid. And I think Kevin and all the overlords over at Disney have realized that, and they have now they're taking a step back, and they're actually hiring show writers, which is something they didn't have previously, which I thought was wild. I have joked with some of my friends that the circle of life with the MCU is they give us the movies, they gave us a couple shows to hold us over to the next movie. We complained and said, "You're making us wait too long in between projects. Give
Hmm.
us more, give us more, give us more." So then they started rushing projects, giving us a bunch of content. And now we've reached the okay, you're giving us too much too fast. It's not fleshed out.
Right.
It's not good. Slow down. They have recently, within the last few months, come out and said they're going to slow down and go back to quality over quantity, which I think is good. But
Right.
I feel like I also can look into the future and see that hopefully they right the ship. But I also feel like they're going to end up getting to a point where people are going to complain, like, oh, well, you're not giving us enough. And it is like a vicious cycle. But I feel like there was a middle ground that they could have gotten to,
Right.
where instead they were just throwing stuff out there,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it
I
didn't stick.
hopefully, hopefully the people that complain about there's not enough content will be quieted more by the people who are like fans like you and I, for years that are just
Who
like,
have seen the alternative.
yeah, this is, they need to do this.
Yeah.
Just give them, let them have the time, let them get it right.
Yes.
I don't, yeah, because again, characters aren't being fleshed out. They're being thrown out so fast, so soon that nothing is, there isn't any character development
I
now.
would rather Secret Invasion was still being written in the works and there was just nothing there, rather than what they gave me.
Right. Or
10
hints,
out of 10 times.
or just a hint of when somebody died that they turned into a scroll. Like you didn't, and then you know what? Like 8 years from now, the battle happens.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that could have been one where you could have played and had Easter eggs and that drug out for years and had
Yeah.
something at the end. But yeah, now you're throwing the characters together so fast that like who are they? Like again,
Right.
it worries me with the Echo and it only being five, where you're like, well, how much are we gonna learn about her?
How much are we going to learn about her? You finally brought Kingpin. I mean, he was in Hawkeye, but you bring
Right.
Kingpin into the MCU and you're wondering, like, okay, well, that's a no pun intended, but a larger than life villain. That's a very popular villain. 5 episodes. What are we going to get out of this?
Right. And it's like, okay,
That's not
is this then just leading into Daredevil hopefully coming out maybe
right.
this year? Oh, all right. So we made it through
Yes.
10. Now, what are you anticipating for 2024?
So for 2024, my first one, bringing it all the way back to Star Wars, there is a good amount of Star Wars content coming out this year. There
Yes.
is the Acolyte, which is something set in like the High Republic era,
Mm-hmm.
1,000 years before any of the Skywalkers. Love that. Been waiting a long time for them to really step away from the sky. While I love the Order 66 content that we've gotten, there is so much Star Wars content that hasn't been explored. And they've just kind of sort of touched on, like, I'm reading Heir to the Empire right now, and I get that they brought Thrawn into it, but it's like there's content there. So
Right.
they're taking it way back, which I'm super excited for. Um, there's the Skeleton Crew, which I think that is actually geared towards a younger audience, but I'm still down for a Lost in Space type of show. The Bad Batch, I don't know if you watched The Bad Batch.
Mhm.
So
The
that
three.
there's third season and the final season is coming up. And then Tales of the Jedi season 2, which was their like 10-15 minute mini episodes that just like added depth here and there, that I thought were really good. But the Acolyte is like the main thing. So that one was more broad, but it's just like Star Wars content in 2024.
I mean, it's still a good. I mean, it's a good one. I mean, that's
Yeah.
and most of mine now. Like, I'm gonna do like all of my movies at one time.
That's fair.
Um, I'm looking forward to Dune Part 2.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to Deadpool 3.
I have some gripes about
And
that, but
what?
yes.
What
I
did
said I
you?
have some gripes about that. Not actually Deadpool. I'm excited for that. I hate that with social media, a lot of the surprise
Oh,
guests, because I've been avoiding it, but I'll just open Instagram and then boom. It's like,
boom.
oh, okay, thanks.
Like,
I'm
like
still
now,
excited for it,
right.
but some of the magic is gone already.
And weirdly enough, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I do love
Yes.
those movies.
Yeah. This one is
And
supposed to be either way after or way before. Way after. Way
yeah,
after.
yeah.
Yeah, because
Like
obviously before wouldn't make any sense.
I could put Kung Fu Panda 4 on here. But no, like those are my movies.
Yes.
Um, and okay, now the TV. I actually did not know that the Penguin is they're going to do an HBO series.
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew that because they announced it a while ago, but then when the whole DC reshuffle happened, I didn't know if it got canceled, but I read recently that that was one of the ones that got carried over.
Yeah, so that was kind of exciting news. So the Penguin, Agatha,
Yes.
two.
This is also one of mine. I my number 2 was Deadpool, and then I just put plus 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 because I have like a list of shows and movies.
House of the Dragon, obviously. I'm
Of
sure that's
course.
on yours,
Of
of course,
course.
too. And Avatar, The Last Airbender. I'm hoping. Did you watch the animated series?
I watched the animated series. I finally back in June or no, back in like August, I watched Legend of Korra.
Yes.
But I
I'm
I watched the show. I've seen the pictures. It
I'm
looks
hoping that they
good.
really do pay homage to
Flashes of M. Night
animated,
Shyamalan are popping into my head right now.
right? I'm so hoping that they do
Yes.
the TV show. That they really honor the TV show because it was so good. Like I kind of like when my kids were like, "What? You need to watch this with me." It was I can't remember when this was, but I was like, "Oh, this is like I'll do it for my kids. I'll watch it for my." And then it was like, "Okay, when are we like okay, it's nighttime. This is when we need to turn on like." And it was I
It's
I was
Dave
shocked
Filoni.
about yeah, I was shocked about how much I enjoyed it. So when I
Yeah.
heard that they were going to do a live action attempt at this again,
Again.
I was nervous, but I'm hoping. I'm hoping.
I am very hopeful. I will not say optimistic, but I will say hopeful.
It won't be whitewashed, at least.
There's that. Looking at the characters, there was the Sokka's character had like that. I read an article about Sokka, like it wasn't whitewashed until they got to his character, and it was like a whole mess. Like his family created a Native American tribe to say that they were from, and really they just like paid like $75,000 to be a part of it. I'm like, oh, come on, guys. Like you were so close. But like
Most.
it's fine. Looking at the stills, and then when they finally released the teaser trailer a month ago or whenever it was, I am hopeful. I'm not gonna say optimistic, but I am hopeful.
So those were my entertainment ones, and then I'm going to end it with that my two for sports are the Cardinals. Hopefully,
Yes.
hopefully we are wrong. We would love to be
Yes.
wrong. We would love to be wrong about this. We enjoy baseball. It is a great baseball town. It's still one of my favorite sports to watch. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And weirdly enough, I am looking forward to the Olympics. I love track and field.
And I have it
I
on mine. I have the Summer Olympics on there. I just something about it just I
love,
can't wait.
love, love, love track and field. I
Yes.
I am in awe of those women, the sprint, those women's bodies are, and the fact that they have the nails and the tattoos and the
It is.
things,
Yes.
their bodies are rock.
They are unapologetically themselves.
Yes, I cannot get enough. I feed me that content. I can't
Yes.
get enough of it. They are my inspiration. Whenever I will love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. I mean,
Yes.
all the rest of the sport, they're fine. I mean, I love the Summer Olympics in general. They're, to me, I like them better in the winter. But
Yes.
yes, Olympic track and field can, when they show the promos on TV now, I am like, look at her. She looks amazing. I
The
cannot wait.
track and field, basketball, just because I love basketball. But track and field and swimming are like two things that just I am locked in. I am locked in
It's
when it's I absolutely love it. Mine was the Star Wars content, all the movies. My number three was the Cardinal season, but I worded it a Cardinal season without nostalgia because all those players are gone.
yes, but now we've got Lance Lynn back and Daniel Descalso. So I mean, come on, it's more nostalgia. Hey, they're finishing up their careers here.
Yeah, I have the Summer Olympics, and then my final one is sports betting being passed in Missouri. I am not an avid degenerate gambler, but from time to time, I'll look at the spread and be like, oh, I don't think Alabama's going to do this in the second half. I don't think this is going to happen. And I don't like that I have to like pop over into Alton, Illinois to put a
You have
bet
to
in.
like get right over. It was like, what is it, like a Circle
the,
K
the
on Valley
closest
Street.
cell phone tower and all that like picks up. So frustrating to put my $20 bet in or my 5 leg parlay that's broken before I've even gotten back to my house. And I did hear that I think the soccer team and the hockey team, the Blues and St. Louis City, and possibly the Cardinals, have basically both written letters to the politicians that
Yeah,
were like,
yeah. For
we
my
cannot make, we're losing out on money because
right.
we can't advertise and do all this. So I think 2 years ago it was on the ballot, and then like a week before the elections, one of the politicians somewhere didn't like the tax rate that they were going to be getting back, so they took it off, and it wasn't back on because we haven't revoted until this November. And so I think the sports teams were like, y'all need to figure it out because
Get it right.
get it
Yes.
right. So I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that. Um, but outside of that one, pretty much all of ours are aligned.
It's so funny that you have the Olympics on there too.
I love the
Hilarious.
Olympics. I love the Olympics. I love the opening ceremonies too. I will die on the hill that the 2008 Beijing opening ceremonies is the greatest piece of art that has ever been created. I will randomly just throw it up on YouTube and
better
listen to it.
than Whitney Houston's was it 1986?
Okay.
One moment in
Second.
time, was it one moment? Yeah. One moment in time. Come on. I mean, like,
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
There is that.
I want to run through a brick wall every time I hear
Yes.
that song.
Yes.
I feel like I could do the hurdles, and I am as tall as a horse. Okay, like, like,
I
there's no way I'm
love the
clearing it.
Olympics so much. There's just everything about it. And then especially the track and field, because I'll randomly turn on ESPN and track and field will be on and I'll watch it. But there's just something about that 2 weeks in the summer or 3 weeks, however long it is. It's just different. It is just different. And I cannot wait.
Good. That gives
Honestly,
us even more content for the summer.
yes.
Perfect.
I'm
Perfect.
looking forward to like, oh, did you see that person from so and so?
I love it so much. I
Yes.
love it so much. Woo! So if you stuck with us and you
Yes.
listen to all of this, this is just a hint of how excited we get about
Yes.
everything. We constantly, this gives us a great place to talk and chit chat. And even if it's just for us, we don't.
That's fine. This is the therapy I needed.
This is exactly what we need to just be able to catch up. And then this way, like,
Yes.
he's not really like, he doesn't send me a text and then 3 days later I'm answering it. So that's, so yeah, it's a great place to kind of get it all out in one place.
Yes.
So we hope to be doing this. I think we decided twice a month right now, and then maybe as
Yeah, for now.
the more, if content really starts hitting us as far as shows go and trying to get everything out, as timely, we will adjust through then, and it kind of will always be an adjustment period. So yeah, we hope you subscribe. We actually are going to get a channel too. Right now it'll be on mine. He'll post it wherever he would like. I'm not gatekeeping this kind
Yes.
so right now it's going to be on mine. We haven't even come up with a name for our
No,
show. So this is all in the works. We are doing this because we knew if we didn't start now, we would always find reasons not to.
it's true.
So here we are. Will, would you like to give them your social media handles and where to find you?
Yes. So my Instagram and Twitter handles are identical. It is Will with one L, WIL underscore DA underscore beast underscore. So Will the Beast underscore. And then my TikTok is Will underscore DA underscore beast with no underscore at the end because I think that one was taken, but I'm gonna go check again. So if I can get all three of those aligned, that would just be perfect.
Perfect. You can find me at Holy L, and that's usually HOLY_ELLE. For entertainment, personal training, you can figure that one out on your own. You can also find me on TikTok at _Holy L, because somebody took Holy L and they are not the Holy L.
It's not because you're an Ohio State fan?
No, I know. Thank God they didn't trademark the, or else I don't know what I would do. So on that one. So yes, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and it'll be up on YouTube with the same name. So yeah, we'll do this again in a few days. And
yes.
we will talk about a homework assignment that we will give each other.
I'm ready.
So yeah, because there's lots of stuff. Rebel Moon, Monarch, all these great TV shows, everything is out and ready to be talked about. So
I chose not to bring up Rebel Moon because I feel like we might talk about it later. I've talked to you a little bit about how I felt about it.
Right.
But I have a lot of feelings.
I know. Yeah. But for another day.
Yes, another day.
So we were going to end it here. And again, we hope that everybody subscribes. And when we come up with a name and an actual channel, we will let you know about that then. Until then, you can find us on all of our social media pages. So ta-ta for now.
All right. We'll see you guys. Thank you.
Bye.